All right, we're going to talk about our DNA today. And have you ever wondered why some patterns in your family history keep happening over and over? They reoccur in life over and over again, such as strongholds, such as anxiety and poverty and illness and addictions. Those are just a few of them. Well, the word refers to these as generational curses. Also, demonic activity. Yeah, it can be demonic activity. Well, we're going to talk about our DNA because this is going to be very interesting and may open up some understanding of what's happening, because the concept of general curses, even demonic activity, it goes back into Genesis 20 or Exodus 20 verse 5, and you can study that on your own, and of course more throughout the whole word. But I want to say that studies in epigenetics have shown us that our experiences, our words, our thoughts, our choices, our habits actually change our brain and our DNA down to the very DNA level. The epigenetics information that sits above the genome controls the programming of the DNA and instructing the different cells on how to express themselves, how to manifest, so to speak. And Dr. Jess Montgomery explains sensations we put into the brain will use the DNA to change how the cell responds. And those genes are turned off or on based on what the response is. Well, the DNA doesn't change, the expression changes. And what's really fascinating about that study is that it reveals that our DNA is not immutable, which was the former notion, but that environment, all the things that I just said, change the way our body functions and behaves. That not only, and here's the kicker, not only do we pass along the DNA sequence to our children, but we even pass those instructions, the things that instructs our DNA how to behave, onto our kids, so it can be inherited and transmitted through generations. And an example would be in a study with mice, is that they were taught how that this fruity odor brought fear, and the next generation responded without being trained, responded to that same odor without training at all. So, and there's other studies, we don't have time to go over each and every one of them, but even on 9/11, those people that were pregnant on 9/11, when those babies were born, they had sort of a post-traumatic stress disorder themselves, and they were affected by loud noises and fear and things like that, that even though they had never been exposed to anything that would cause that, because there's something that happens on the DNA level. And that's why they say that even stress is an open door for demonic activity. Yeah, it is. Anyway, so the sins of the father, that's the concept of this generational curse under the microscope. Your habits and all your experience have greater social implications than you would ever hear. So when your mom or dad told you, or your brother, your sister, your friend, hey, watch how you think, watch how you act, et cetera, break those things off. It's important, because you're literally handing that stuff down to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and need I say more, because then they'd experience it and they hand it down. So it's this cycle, never-ending cycle, because the DNA has been literally changed in us by the way we act, by the way we think, by the sin that we have in our own lives. It opens up a change in our DNA marker. That's why the sins of the father are passed down. That's why, and that it can be good too, guys. It can be good things that pass down as well. But when we have kids, we pass that sequence to them, but it can be broken. It can be corrected. So Dr. Doug Weiss says, don't think of it as a battle. You're just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for the lineage that God gave you, and you will break the curse. Then your sons and your daughters have a better shot, and your grandchildren have a better shot. And that even goes with deliverance. Now, I want to couple this with some studies that have been shown. And I pulled down 3 articles, and I haven't put the links in, but they show that your DNA can be programmed by your words and your thoughts. Yeah, folks, because we have 7% of the junk DNA, which is 90% of our DNA, actually serves as a biological web tool, sort of an internet to our bodies. And it causes when we meditate, when I say meditate, I'm not talking new age. I'm talking, there's a reason that Yah tells us to dwell on things that are good and lovely, because those things are what's going to affect our body. Because when our thoughts and our words align more to the frequency of negative, of you're sick, you're tired, you're whatever it may be, we're literally switching our DNA, changing our DNA because of the frequency and the vibration that goes out. And that happens in live tissue. It's going to respond to the vibration of language. Think about that. Those things that you've heard us talk about before, it literally goes down to a cellular level, a cellular DNA level, even bigger than cellular, a DNA level. It is proven, the study shows that x-rays have changed, that the damage x-rays have done can be changed and corrected. But here's something interesting as well. Let me see if it is discovered, and here's where the demonic activity can come in that you may never have understood, because your spirit is not affected, but your flesh is. Your flesh, your soul, those things can be affected. And this study says it was discovered that when the human DNA, when in a vacuum, can give rise to the production of magnetized wormholes. Now, this sounds freaky weird, but I want you to think about it, because we're talking about other dimensional things. And we have talked before about CERN opening up dimensions and things like that. But these tunnels serve as this bridge to the outside world and allows transfer. Now, I want you to I know that's weird, but I want you to think about, we always say, well, how does that happen? Well, maybe this is a way it happens, and it affects our DNA. That's why we've got to break the curses and go through deliverance. Our words, our thoughts, our habits, sin, all change not only who we are, but they change us for generations. So here's my word. We need to change the way we think. We need to purposely break the bad habits in our lives. We need to change how we talk. Whatever is good, whatever is lovely, whatever is praiseworthy, we need to shift the atmosphere around us, because a lot of the issues that we have, we've opened the door for them, or maybe others have. But Yah has given us a tool and a blueprint. His name is greater than any other name. And prayer is powerful. This actually goes to how prayer works. When you work out these studies, when we pray for healing, when we speak life and not death over one another, that how this can affect a person, because this study also goes into group dynamics. When we're all agreeing on one thing, and in prayer and in song we do, then it literally can affect something that's far away. And they did that with examples of bees and ants, how when the queen is there, things function as they're supposed to. When she dies, even though the ants and bees aren't in their present, everything breaks down. So there's so much research on this that sounds new age. But here's the next thing. Hasn't it always been that it is the occult, and whether you want to say new age, whatever, that has taken concepts that are true and twisted them for their own benefit? Well, let me tell you, these false religions believe in the power of thought and words. And much of the Christian church does too, but do we truly believe it? Because we continue to walk it out and say and destroy life by the way we think and act and the habits that we have. But these other religions have tapped into the truth and twisted it for their own benefit. And why don't we take the truth back and untwist it for his glory, and become different in our bodies? Yeah, because these things affect how we feel and how we live, and affect the generations ahead. So there's a lot more to it, but just the basic thing: prayer, worship, deliverance, breaking sin patterns in our own life. These things have power for the negative or for the good. Epigenetics, DNA. Literally, if they can be healed and transformed because of the word and because of Yah. And we can become, instead of a sick, broken population with broken homes, we can become a healthy population of believers that can focus, instead of so inwardly, we can focus outwardly and take back what the enemy has stolen. Anyway, so you guys jump in here now. I want to know what you guys think about this for a few minutes anyway. And like I said, I think it plays right into what Sherry's main topic is going to be today. And so.
Well, I think it's one of many, even though it's on a small cellular perspective. It is a physical manifestation of a spiritual thing. Is what it is, and we deal with these things all the time. They're always in front of our face, physical manifestations of spiritual things. Even though we don't see DNA, it is it's something that's actual there. I mean, my DNA's here, your DNA's there. A lot of what I've been teaching on lately has been culture, and it's amazing because a culture is everywhere, and it's each one of us have our own culture, and DNA incorporates the culture of a person and all the soul and all this different things that's there. So to me, in a nutshell, it's a physical manifestation of a spiritual thing, because the spirituality of that works in the science.
Joe.
Yeah, you're talking about the science. Our cells change every day. So if you're going to sit there and be angry constantly, your cells are going to break down in your body. And, especially when you have, like my mom always would say, turn the frown upside down. She says, why are you furrowing your brow? Why are you being angry? You need to be happy, because you know what? When you get older, your face is going to go drag to the ground. I mean, it's just something my mom would tell us. And yeah, she would say it in her accent. So I'm not doing the accent because it's very difficult to do all that. But she was trying to show us that our actions also affect, like you were saying, our DNA, our perspective, our way of life. It doesn't just affect us, it affects those around us as well. And if we are going to go out and we are going to be light for his glory, then we should be not sitting there at the cash register going, the register lady goes, how's your day? Well, I had such a bad day. My back's killing me. My head hurts. No, we should be sitting up and saying, hallelujah, praise the Lord. I'm here and I'm walking, and God gave me the money to buy food, and, and present ourselves that way. I believe God takes our DNA and changes it when we follow his word and we're obedient to his word. He changes our DNA. Like, I have in my DNA this thing, which I'm going to re-say that now. I'm dealing with this thing in my DNA, which is RP, which the Father is taking and tweaking and turning it back to the way it should be, which is being able to see things properly. And we need, and I'm learning through this process of my DNA being changed, not just physical, but spiritual. Praising him. That's another thing. You said prayer, but praise is another.
Praising. Yes.
Praising, rejoicing. Look at the fruits of the Spirit. All the fruits of the Spirit will change your DNA to the best. And you know what? Ladies, you won't get as many wrinkles. You won't look as old as you are physically. You will still get wrinkles and stuff, but if you have that smile, you'll have that beautiful wrinkle of a smiling wrinkle. You will have that beautiful little, what are those called? Crow's feet? Because you've been smiling instead of frowning, and you will look beautiful to the world instead of looking miserable. And we need to remember that.
That's right. Sherry.
Amen. I agree with Mark that it's a spiritual thing being manifest out in the physical, that everything starts from the spiritual and manifests outward. And it's interesting because I noticed, like, some of the commercials for Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem and everything, they're offering DNA testing because they are finding that DNA testing maps out body specific eating patterns, how your body processes food and minerals and vitamins. and they tailor their system for you, because one person may digest something differently. And so they are actually using the DNA testing to help with weight loss. And they're finding a great deal of help with that. And to help people that have previously not been able to lose weight, be able to lose weight by gearing it to their DNA, which I found was interesting. I was like, what did that just say? I mean, I just noticed that a couple of days ago. And then there was a Japanese scientist, Emoto, or Japanese, he's a naturopathic doctor, I think, Emoto, and he did research on water. Some of the water had been exposed to positive words, classical music, and even positive prayer, and then frozen. And then another thing of water had been exposed to negative words, crude music, harsh music, and he looked at, and that was frozen. And then he looked at the crystals that were formed in the water, and the ones that had the positive were beautifully formed, but the ones that were not were really ugly type crystals. They didn't have, had
No symmetry,
things like that. So I found that way. And so that comes back to the words we speak. Do we speak positive or do we speak negative? Do we, what do we think on? You know, that's a lot. Where is it? Philippians, I think, says, think on these things, whatever is good, whatever, you know, it gives a list there of things, and they're all positive things. So, and one other thing, this is interesting. I heard Brad Scott say this a while back. He talked about how music changes your DNA. And there's a lot of men in prison that have been listening to this boom boxes and having it go through their body so loudly. And then they came up with DNA after that. And they found that their DNA did not match the DNA found at the crime. Now, was it because their DNA was changed in prison, or was it because, you know, so that they've been looking at that too.
Yeah.
Something that what you just said, and I will attest to this. I've been visiting this person in the pavilion, which this person had tried to commit suicide, and there were other issues. And when you try, then there's other things going on. And as I was meeting with this person, young person, I said, what are you listening to? And the stuff music wise. And they said and all of it was about committing suicide, doing this and this and this. And I told her, I said, you've got to stop that. And I explained and some things like that. And as I've been ministering there, but that is the power. We in this society think we're too logical, too scientific to understand that words and thoughts have power over our own body. Now, science is proving that out, but we that call ourselves believers here in Western society consider ourselves too sophisticated even for the understanding of the demonic, where you go over to other third world countries, they understand what that is and they put it in its proper place. We've got to get down and get back and understand and see things as a child and stop thinking that we've got to be so spiritually, I don't need, it's a religious spirit.
Spiritually sophisticated.
That we are really spiritually ignorant. Yeah. And that's not true. Anyway, hey guys.
Couple of quick things before we go. A word I ran into the other day that I had never heard before, I didn't even know this was an actual condition, is called ataraxia. Anybody know what that means? Ataraxia. This is a real thing, and they're saying it's a disorder, but I don't see how it could be. Ataraxia is the absence of mental stress or anxiety, peace of mind, peacefulness, repose, blah, 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 tranquility, all that. So it's spelled ATARAXIA. It's almost like anorexia, but it's ataraxia. And it's a real condition that people have, and you're born with it, and it's part of a DNA in that they never get stressed. You can stand there and accuse them of murder and accuse them of, say all kinds of things to them, and they will not get stressed over it. They just don't care. It doesn't enter into who they are. And that is something I found, and they were talking about how it's embedded, and it's even the opposite. So a lot of us that gets real stressed out and we're offended real easy and that type of thing, it literally might be in your DNA. It might be how you're trained to be that way. And real quickly before we go, I'd like to ask Joe. Joe, can you tell us about this person that that works at the cash register you were talking about a while ago? He was saying, I've had such a bad day and all this kind of stuff. Because the way you were saying it, I'm real sure that Rosanna Dana works at this cash register, because it just sounded exactly like it. Never.
And her last name was Banana.
Rosanna, yeah, Banana. Yeah. So go back and watch the tape, because I'm sure that's the person that works.
Yeah, we have a friend in the family. She's passed now. Her monotone was always very calm. Mm-hmm. She never got upset. She'd be like, "That's really upsetting, but you know what? Everything will be fine." Right. She was always, and my mother, and I have my mother's Hispanic, and this is a Mexican woman that was like the Hispanic, bam, and she'll come to my mom and she goes, "It's okay. Calm down." So these were my two moms. The other one is, of course, one biological. The other one's my spiritual mom. Those two, when they were together, they balanced everything. But yeah, there are people like that. They're very just.
Well, y'all know Adina, my wife. Every one of you have met her. You know her. The woman she can get stressed. She can get offended, not easily, but it never lasts. And when we first got together, she used to upset me because you can stress her out. You can make her mad and the whole thing, and literally 2 minutes later it's like nothing happened. And it used to make me mad. It's like my mom taught me that if you get upset or offended, you're offended for days. You don't let that go. Even if they apologize, you don't let that go. And my wife can let everything go within minutes. And I had to get used to it. It made me mad that it's like, anyway. And she has kind of that anorexia type of thing where it just.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.